Incidentally, one of my stops over the last few years was in Hoover, Alabama, at a fabulous book festival called Southern Voices. And I don't know how I managed to make the list to get to that, but there was really big-time authors there, including Wendy Wax, which is where I met her the first time a couple of years ago. And while our writing subject matter is really different, for some reason they chose to pair us together, and that was a really fabulous experience. So the two of us were on the stage in a room like this and kind of played off each other and talked about what we did, and that was really fun for me.
Me too.
Good. I'm so glad, because if you thought it wasn't, that'd be really No, it was a fabulous experience. I wanted to talk a little bit about how I came to write this book. The Iguana Tree, I know some of you told me as you were coming in that you've read it. I think there are a few book clubs here who've already read this book. But if you haven't, it's the story of a young Mexican couple. And the setting is actually near here, Edisto Island. And the story is about this couple who, they're young, they're married, they have a baby, and they decide, the husband decides, that he'd like to cross the border with a smuggler into the United States to find employment. And he does, and he ends up on a tree farm on Edisto Island. And his wife, who he's left behind with the infant, rather than waiting on the husband to save the money, earn the money to fund her crossing with an illegal smuggler, an opportunity presents itself to her that she can't pass up. So rather than waiting on her husband to save the money for her and the baby's crossing, she chooses to take that crossing into her own hands, and she crosses as well by herself with this smuggler. And as you can imagine, they go through some pretty horrific experiences on their journey here. So how did I come to write a book about this? People always want to know that. I remember I was at a writer's conference and I had to send in a sample of my work before I got there. And when I got there, everybody was shocked to see this blonde-haired Southern woman. They all thought I was going to be a Mexican. So the way I came to write this story, it was really sort of the nexus of three things in my life at the same time. I'd always been a writer. I just had never attempted a novel. Well, I have 3 children, and about the time I had my second daughter, she was a baby, and I live up in Spartanburg. I was down in the low country visiting relatives, and I was on my relative's farm on Edisto, and I met a young couple who was here from Mexico, working on the farm. And I had my daughter with me, and they had their little son with them. And you know how it is, no matter where if you're at the beach, if you're at a ballpark, and you're a mom, and you have your toddler, and you come across another mother and their toddler, the babies are drawn to each other, and you strike up a conversation. That's just how it goes. That's universal. So I began to talk to this woman. Her English was not very good, and my Spanish was okay, but we were able to communicate. And it didn't take long for her to confide in me that she had crossed the border illegally, that she did not have proper papers, nor did her husband, nor did their baby. Now, we all know that's in the news all the time. If you're paying attention, you just about can't get through a day without seeing it on TV or in a magazine or in the newspaper. But I've never had someone come right out so openly and tell me that, particularly having just met them that hour. And the writer in me and the mom in me was fascinated with that story for a lot of reasons, but particularly the crossing with the baby, that they had crossed the border with the baby. And I thought, I had a million questions for them. Why did you think that that was a good thing to do? Did you not think that was dangerous? You know that it's against our laws. Were you not scared for the safety of yourself and your baby? And, you know, my gut reaction was to judge her, because being a new mother myself, I didn't even like to leave my baby in the church nursery, because you're just worried about germs and who's going to be in there watching the baby. So to cross a border into another country where there are guards and dogs and people there who don't want you there boggled my mind.